Hello and welcome to Whisky.com, where fine spirits meet. And today we have really Scottish weather on a small island called the Isle of Raasay. Scottish weather is when the rain comes from the side. Yeah, today we have a nice story for you. It's about Callum's Road. And Callum's Road is a road on the Isle of Raasay. And there was a man in the 1960s who lived here on the island. His name was Callum. And he was living on the northern part of the island. The ferry was going from pretty much the south. And so, there was a little, like a track, like a mule track or a wheelbarrow track. So you couldn't really go from his house to the ferry in a very fast time. So it took about a day. So he went to the local council and said, "Hey, I need a road." And they said, "No, that's too much expensive. There are not enough people living up there, so we're not funding this road." So what he did, he was a man of doing, and he took his wheelbarrow, he took a pickaxe, and he took a shovel, and you can see like his equipment here, and he actually built the road by himself. So, and by building the road, he cleared the road, made it flat, so you could take a 4x4, a Range Rover or something like that, down to the ferry. And he did that because he wanted to have a track for his daughter who needed to go to the school. So it took him 10 years to build the road, so I'm not quite sure how this worked out with his daughter. But in the end, he finished it. He went back to the council and said, "Hey, I've built the road." And they said, "Yeah, that's really nice. We're taking over the road. We're naming it Callum's Road, and we're actually putting tarmac on it." So he then put tarmac on it. He had a nice road named after himself. Quite a nice story about a man who really didn't take no for an answer and just made it himself. If you'd like to know more about the story, there's a book about that at the Distillery of Isle of Raasay. The Raasay Distillery has the whole book about how he made it and a lot of background knowledge in it. And today we actually want to go to the distillery to see how the Isle of Raasay whiskey is made. But before that, let me tell you about the story about the distillery. It was founded in 2014 and it opened in 2017, and the first whiskey came out in 2020. So it's like a bit of a newer distillery, but they're really special. So let's have a look how this whiskey here at the Isle of Raasay is being made. The distillery here in Raasay actually uses two different kind of malt. You have one with 0 ppm and then you have one with 50 ppm. So one really heavily peated and one unpeated. And so you have 1 ton of barley grist filled in here, and then you sparge water over it, and you have about 2,000 liters. Next water is then 3,000 liters, and that is actually what comes off and goes into the fermentation. The third water then is really, really hot to dilute everything out of that grist, and then you have it left as draft. And that water is not enough sugar, not enough starch in it, so they actually recycle it in the next run. What is really interesting is they do peated and unpeated. So do they have a week of washing? No, they don't. Actually, they do just continuously. So they have their malt hopper being emptied and the next one comes in, and then they produce again. And what they then say is they don't have an unpeated or a peated one. It's more of an intermediate product that they're producing, and that actually gets marked and for the cask. And then you have the intermediate that you can also use for making the whiskey. So there are 6 wash bags with each 5,000 liters of volume, and they actually do have a cooling jacket. They only use the cooling jacket for the non-peated, and they actually turn it on with 32 degrees Celsius, which is a bit higher than I actually was used to. But the thing is, if you have higher temperatures with fermentation, you get a bit of a stronger flavors, and if you have cooler temperatures, you get a milder flavors, more of the fruity, like that. And here, what they actually are looking for is the darker, fruitier characters like blackcurrant, cherries, and all these kind of flavors, red grapes. That's what they're looking for. So this is why they use these temperatures, and they do a lot of length in fermentation, so 3 to 5 days. And that gives them lactobacterial fermentation, which produces fruity flavors. And with the temperature and also the yeast, they are really producing these flavors. The yeast is very interesting because they have normal distillers yeast, and they also do have a champagne yeast, which gives them these flavors, or is very influential in the production of these flavors. Unfortunately, the champagne yeast has something that's called a killer strain. So this yeast is really killing off all the other yeast bacteria. So you can't really mix them with the others. So they actually do the fermentation separately. But they are experimenting with sequential production. So you put in the distiller's yeast first, which gives you good results as in alcohol-wise, and then you put in the champagne yeast afterwards, which gives you very good results in terms of flavor-wise. So they already have this champagne yeast here on site and doing it with that, but they are trying to change the production, so it's more of a continuous thing going on. I really like it. The champagne yeast is not just for champagne, but they also use it in tequila or mezcal, where these flavors are really favored. And this is the first step where you then produce these kind of flavors, and then now let's have a look how these flavors are then intensified. This here is now the heart of the distillery, and we start off with the wash inside the wash still. It's 5,000 liters. Just fill it up, starts boiling, and have a look at the watch glass so it's not boiling over. And then the vapors start rising, and here comes the first specialty. It's a line arm that's falling, but it also has a cooling jacket. How does that make sense? There is a valve behind the cooling jacket that it has a connection to the pot, so it's a reflux valve. So if you open the valve on the reflux, you have the cooling jacket active. If you close the valve and it's pretty much inactive, it just flows to the condenser like normal. What they do here is with the peated spirit, they actually open the valve and have the reflux. You would think it would give you a finer spirit, but as it's on the wash still, it's differently. And they say here it gives you a more oilier, more character. Nice for the PP, the one with the peat in it. That's really cool. For the unpeated, they actually do close it. After it's been stilled for the first time, we go to the spirit still. 3,600 liters is the capacity that they fill the still about with. It always depends on how much you have left from the last run, and they start boiling here. The line arm here is a bit rising, so everything that condenses within that tube actually flows back into the pot. And then you have a lot of possibilities. You can actually switch to gin producing, or you can actually switch on a rectifier. Rectifier is like a column still. If you put it on top of the still, which is kind of the same as connecting into it, then you would have a Lomond still. And here you have different sheets in there, and it just separates the alcohol more. You can go up to 80% ABV, and it gives you a really, really fine spirit. Really nice. So they have a lot of possibilities of switching valves, changing stuff. And what they actually do is they make 4 different kind of spirit, which they find like their best ones. They can do 6. This is more experimental ones. Maybe they will turn out to be good. Maybe they will discontinue it. Maybe they'll try something new as well. So they have a lot of possibilities. And they don't have that big of a tradition to keep up to, or that prohibits them from changing. Here the spirit stills are really nice. They're actually separately, but they work really like the normal spirit stills at every other distillery as well. And in the end, we do still here have the spirit safes. They are pretty cool looking. They are individual, one for wash and one for spirit, but they work like the normal spirit safe they have everywhere else. And but they're just really cool and unique looking. So this one is here the spirit still, and let's have a look how the whiskey is matured. All of the casks from the distillery actually are on Raasay. The warehouse is 2-3 minutes drive from the distillery, and this is like the first warehouse, and there's another warehouse which is a bit bigger with palletized, but this here is like the special warehouse, which is a dunnage warehouse, not so high, so you can reach all the casks, and it has a stamped wooden, stamped earthy floor, and just very traditional. And when you look around, you see a lot of American standard barrels. Usually you'd think, yeah, bourbon barrels. This here is not the case. What they do is actually they have a lot of ex-rye casks, which is kind of their base. And then they have another type of cask, the virgin Chinquapin oak, which is an American oak grown in the same region, but a different strain of oak, which is a bit more subtle, bit not as strong as the normal Quercus alba. And what they do is then they use that as a virgin oak. And then you also do have a bit of sherry on top. And this is what they are looking for. They are looking for a bit of more of a stronger character. So what Raasay sees themselves is a Hebridean distillery. So islands on the coast of Scotland. So what you have is you don't have that strong peatiness like on Islay, so you have a lightly medium peated, and then you do also have a bit more of a spiciness, a bit more character to it, more dark fruits, bit spicy from the ex-rye. So this is what Raasay sees themselves. And what you can also do here is you can actually buy private casks. So you can buy a cask from the distillery and have it stored here on site. These are either 200-liter casks or these are 30-liter casks. If you have 200-liter casks, you have to have a bit more patience. If you have a 30-liter cask, they're so small, they have a lot of wood contact, so they age quite fast. They are refill casks, so it's not that fast that you'd be done in a year. But with these small casks, you can buy them and then have them bottled afterwards. But be careful, there is a waiting list, so you can't really get them right now. So you have to get on the waiting list and wait for a little bit. What you then also have here is a few special casks, and I'm actually allowed to have a little sip of one of these casks. These are Massanilla casks. This is the peated spirit. So this is very interesting to see how they do the peated spirit and how this cask influences that. Oh, and this is really, really nice. Oh, strong smoke, really strong smoke. It's quite interesting as it has a lot of spiciness to it as well, and a lot of volume in it. The smokiness is a mixture. It's a mixture between wood fire, bonfire, chimney, not as a peat ham chimney, but more of a living room chimney that's really burnt, and love it. A nice thing. And the dark fruits come through, spiciness. And what they do here is then they have these different kind of casks, a lot of different kind of casks, different spirits. And what you can do then is put them into a recipe together and bottle it as they like it. And that gives you kind of a base note. And their first bottling is kind of now their core range, and it comes out twice a year. And as they will go along, we'll see more special editions. They do have some special editions. They've already prepared some more special editions. And the distillery is relatively young, so we will see what we will find in the future. This is the maturation. So this was it with the production. And now let's have a little bit of a try of their finished product. So I'm sitting here with Alasdair, and you are co-founder and master distiller here at the distillery. Obviously, you've been here since 2014, since the start. And you've been in the whiskey industry since 2009.
That's great. Yeah.
So collected a little bit of experience, and your family has a bit of heritage in the whiskey industry.
That's great, yeah.
So thank you very much for having us here at the distillery.
It's a pleasure.
It's a bit of a bad day.
It's wild. It's wild out there today. Yeah.
But I made it. Hopefully I make it back. So quite some whiskey, pretty different to what I've tried so far from the Scotches, and yeah, you definitely are a Scotch, but it has so many nice flavors. So what are we having now?
So we have our signature Hebridean single malt, Isle of Raasay Hebridean single malt, and this is the most recent bottling. So this is our autumn bottling. This is Arrow 2.1. We do 2 bottlings a year, a spring and an autumn. So Arrow 1 is the spring, Arrow 2 is the autumn, and this is this year's bottling. It's just done.
Nice. Okay.
Okay.
Let's have it then.
Okay, good stuff.
So how many different kind of recipes or the casks are going into that?
So we have 2 different spirit types. We have our unpeated and our peated spirit, and then we have 3 different cask types. So you can see them here. We have ex-rye, Chinkapin oak, and ex-Bordeaux red wine.
Okay.
Both in unpeated and peated. So they're all matured separately, and then we vat all 6 casks together, 6 cask types together to produce the single malt.
And obviously no colouring, chill filtering.
Yeah, so this
just
is
natural product.
just natural. This is bottled at 46.4% ABV.
You don't even have the equipment here for filtering.
No, we don't. No.
Yeah,
No.
that was cool that I didn't get in the video that you do your own bottling here.
Yeah, we do. So everything, we've got the water from our well, distillation here on Raasay, everything's matured on Raasay, and everything's bottled on Raasay as well.
Yeah, so you get the malt, you get the empty casks, and ship out full bottles.
That's it. Yeah, all leaves the island when it's sold. Yeah.
Okay, nice. So you told me beforehand that does it have a ppm value then on the bottle, or
not in the bottle. So the barley comes in at about 50 parts per million. Phenol, so it's fairly heavily peated barley. We take quite a narrow cut in the distillery, so we kind of start about 75, and we cut down on the peated, we cut down to 65, on the unpeated down to 67. So it's quite a narrow cut. So that reduces the phenols that are actually in the new make spirit. And then by the time we get to bottling, most of our bottlings are between 6 and 11 parts per million in the bottle. So if you go onto our website and you look at Arrow 2.1, it tells you all the cut points, it tells you the residual phenols, everything's there. So
nice. So yeah, you're pretty transparent in terms of what you make there.
Yeah, I mean, if someone wants to find out something about how we make it, we'd like to think they can go to our website, look up that bottling, and the information's there.
That's nice. So it's really interesting because I just had what did I have? I had a mozzarella with the peated and another one also with the peated.
Yeah, so the Quercus Humboldti, the Colombian Andean cask,
But they are special. There's nothing in there, but
no.
I can feel the peat flavor again.
Yeah, it's very light on the nose. Yeah. There's some peat there. It's more of a wood smoke, an aromatic smoke. Yeah,
it's not this phenolic dry, but really a burned out bonfire.
Like a bonfire.
Smothering bonfire or something like that. Smoldering, that well. And
there's a bit of sweetness too on the nose, just behind that smoke.
Yeah, it has a bit of everything. The sweetness is light, but it's there, and a bit of these darker fruits in there, but also that has a bit of a volume to it. I didn't expect that. How old is that, roundabout?
So the oldest casks in this batch are from April 2018.
2018.
And the youngest are just over 3 years old. So it's, it's, if we were to put a number on it, it would be a 3-year-old. But there is, as I say, there are some casks, in fact, some of the red wine casks, unpeated red wine, that go back to April.
Yeah, the thing is, if you're going into virgin Chinkapin, are they really? Is it possible then for you to get somewhere to 10 years, or is that really?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, the recipe, these 6 different casks, the 3 different wood types and 2 different spirit types, is designed to get us to 10 years and beyond. So, if you imagine the casks that we've emptied for this batch are going to be refilled, so the Chinkapin becomes first fill then, and so that first fill will certainly mature on to 7-8 years. And also it allows us to play with the ratio. So at the minute it's predominantly the rye cask, then the Chinkapin, and the least amount is the ex-Bordeaux red wine cask. But again, the rye and the Bordeaux cask will happily mature. Even as first fill cask happily mature on for 10 years. So we can hopefully in time just flex with that recipe to, get to the flavour profile of a 10-year-old.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm excited. So
cheers.
Slash.
So more of that spice, you get more of that rye influence, that black pepper spice coming through on the front. Some smoke and peat in the back is the mouth as well.
Oh, more peat than I expected.
Yeah.
And spiciness.
Definitely.
This
spicy.
is a hefty Islander. This is a hefty Islander.
Very good.
Oh, I like it. This is really, for me, that's really a spicy, smoky, intense one.
Yeah, I mean, the rationale behind the three different wood types and two spirits types is so that we can create complexity and depth at a young age, but then by vatting it and using the proportions, we get hopefully balance between those casks as well.
I'm really excited about how will this turn out if you have older expressions.
Yeah.
Will this get into a even stronger territory, or is that going to be more smooth because of age, maturation?
I think it will change, and we're seeing that already, as I say, with the kind of older casks in there. So particularly with the wine casks. So in the early years, you get a lot of influence from the previous contents, the ex-Bordeaux red wine, but then as time develops, you get more of the influence from the French oak. So again, that savoury spice, almost clove note coming from the French oak. The same with the rye cask. So initially you get much more of the pepper, black spice from the rye itself, but then you get more into the Quercus alba, you get more butterscotch, more vanilla in time. And the Chinkapin cask adds the weight, adds the middle balance to it. So I think in time you'll get more oak influence and less of the content. So at the minute we're getting quite a bit of the influence of the previous contents of the casks, but in time you'll get more of that oak influence coming through as well.
I like it. So how did you come up with that idea or that recipe? Because it's when you have your equipment and all this marriaging, that's quite complex. How did you come up with it?
So I think we started out knowing that we wanted a Hebridean whiskey, and then it was like, what is a Hebridean whiskey? So the light peat element, that is to me the nod to what is Hebridean whiskey, that kind of lightly peated. So not Islay, not medicinal peat, but just a light kind of smoky peat. And then the thought was to have that dark fruit flavour. So normally when you think of single malt, Scotch single malt, you're thinking apples, pears, bananas, that sort of thing. So for us it was to go more into the dark fruits, more of that kind of black currant, black cherry flavours. And so we looked at the process. How do we create those flavours in the process? So the long fermentations, the 5-day fermentations, cooling jackets that can be either off or on, the line arm and the wash still, where we can, recirculate that and build up some of the heavier compounds. So designing the process, having a blank sheet of paper, that luxury where you can design a process. But the view to create different types of new make spirit that then can be matured in different types of oak casks, so that you've got layers that when you bring it all back together in time, you build those layers, you get some depth, you get complexity, but most importantly, being able to create balance in that as well. So,
yeah, I like it. So that is really cool. So did it turn out as you would expect it?
I'm pleased to say yes.
Okay.
I think the idea of using rye instead of bourbon. So rye we wanted that black pepper, we wanted that spice, not just the typical vanillas and the butterscotch. So we have that in the whiskey.
Yeah, I love that. Only very, very few whiskeys have that with the rye, and I do like it. I think it's underappreciated, and I love it.
Yeah, and I think that the Chinkapin oak and the Bordeaux ex-Bordeaux cask, they all are probably not typical, but again, they're adding the flavours and the character that we want in the whiskey.
And you're bottling with 46%.
Yeah, so this is 46.4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. If you're not chill filtering, then
Most of the people do
You
that
want to
under
be over
46.
46, yeah. And you know, we use the water from our well all the way through the process. So we use it for fermentation, we use it for mashing, we use it for cask reduction, but we also use the same water for bottling as well. So.
I have to say, it's a strong one. It's not like one that you can just sip on the side and just relax in that. It's really demanding your attention. It's like, whoa, this is here, this is smoky, this is hefty, this is spicy.
It's great.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So what's the other bottle then?
So we have our distillery special release here. So this is actually last year's bottling of it, but we're just about to do another one. So this is matured in the ex-rye cask for about 2 years, and then vatted, and then put back into quarter casks, a mixture of Oloroso and Pedro Jimenez quarter casks, and then matured on for another year or so, and then vatted again, and then bottled. So matured in rye, finished in Oloroso and Pedro Jimenez quarter casks.
So you really replaced the bourbon just with the rye.
Yes, exactly that. Yeah, that's
okay.
it.
But that's a really cool idea. That's what I love about whiskey. You think, you've seen it all. I've seen like, I don't know, 100 Scotch distilleries, and I think I've seen it all. And then you come to a distillery, and go, no, we do it right.
Yes. Yeah. Ooh. So more of the cherry on the nose, less of the smoke.
Is it, like on the paper, is it as smoky as the other one, or is it just
I think,
but this one hides the smoke.
So it's exactly the same, you know. So the peated barley comes in at 50 parts per million. We take a narrow cut, so that reduces the amount of phenols in the new make. But then, when it actually goes into the Oloroso cask, I think the Oloroso comes more to the fore.
Oh, okay. So that is more dominant, and you. Okay, nice. But it's a bit from the nose. It's a bit mild, a bit rounder,
a little bit softer on the nose.
A little bit softer and a little bit more fruit in there.
So there's still that spice. You've still got that spiciness, but then the sherry comes in.
Ooh. Oh, when you have it in your mouth, it's pretty rounded. I feel like, maybe milder Scotch. When you swallow it, that spice comes out, just fills your mouth all around. A little bit of a peppery hotness even in my mouth. But this one has 52.
Yeah, so this is a higher strength bottling. 52% ABV.
But the sherry comes through your whiskey a lot different, because what I think is interesting is that you're missing a bit of that sweetness.
Yeah.
Your whiskey is definitely, you have a lot of flavors all going around, but that strong overtone, vanilla caramel, that is less.
It's dialed down a bit, and I think
just
some of that's the rye cask. I think also bottling it at 52, that brings more of the kind of spiciness back into the whiskey, just at that slightly higher strength.
Yeah, the thing that I had straight from the cask, I was like, yo, this is spicy.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd say a bit difficult for beginners.
Yeah, it's quite complex, I think.
It's more of an expert whiskey, I would say.
I like to hear that.
More of a, like, I don't want to say a peat head, because it's but yes, I think not all the peat heads are into like 40.
Yeah.
But it's still it's strange how lightly peated and heavily peated that way isn't so big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's there, but I think as well it's that complexity of the two different cherry quarter casks in there as well, and you've got that, and then slightly higher bottling strength as well.
I like it that you have such a spicy whiskey. That is that is actually hard to reach, I think, within the industry. It's getting a spicy whiskey.
Again, it's trying to have that complexity and depth, so it's trying to have the spiciness, but also a bit of sweetness and dark fruit as well, I think.
But they are nuances here. You have them, you can feel them, you can search for them, but they are not like, bam, here I am, can't miss me.
Yeah, no, very much so,
yeah. So that was really lovely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having us here at the distillery and
absolute pleasure.
Showing us around and giving us insights in what you do here.
No, it's been a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for coming to see us.
Yeah, and thank you very much for watching. If you found this video interesting, then please feel free to share this video with your friends. Thank you very much and see you next time.
Goodbye.